We're focused on being 1-0 this week. We're focused on being 1-0 this week. You know what's crazy is what matters to me is being 1-0 this week. I sure do want to be 1-0 this week.
How badly do you want to be 1-0 this week?
Pretty damn bad. Trying to be 1-0 this week.
Any more questions?
Just to clear it up, you prefer winning to losing this week?
Thanks, Jalen.
News team, assemble!
It's back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back, everybody. It is another edition of the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com, brought to you by MidFirst Bank. Go to midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. Sign up for the exclusive provider of the OU credit card. Get your OU credit card now, 0% APR for the first year. So thanks to MidFirst Bank. All right, welcome back. It is time to play some football once again. Iowa State coming to town. It is a night game. Welcome in Eddie Radosevich, Bob Przybilla, who apparently I did not think at the end of last show. Thanks, Bob. I'll try and improve this time. And Josh McCuistion, who is a technical genius, as we all know, joining us as well. Eddie, you got a date after the pod? What's going on? You're all dressed up.
I have to go over to Gaylord College.
What are we doing?
I think it's just I'm not really sure, to be honest.
How to be
horns up for peace.
How to be a influencer in this day and age of journalism.
I hope that's not what they're asking, because no, it's some type of interview for something. I'm not sure,
but it's for a class.
Yeah, well, it's for their 2-hour pregame, some kind of pregame show that's going to be on Saturday. I think they do it every week.
Oh, their game day thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, yeah.
Well, you're just a man that is wanted all over the place.
I know. I need to start charging for appearance fees.
Eventually, you'll just do what I do, and you just stop returning phone calls. Unless it's for game day or, the big ones you're going to have to save. Yes, I'll do.
I am here for you, the people. I will show up whenever you need me to.
Even though some people hated you this week because of some lecherous CBS Sports and ESPN, I would say. I thought
it was more funny than anything.
I guess I should turn Josh up. Josh, there you go. You should have told me to turn you up. I'm sorry. You're the technical expert. So
it'd be tough to tell you if you can't hear me.
Yeah, that's true. Josh, I'm going to say this right now. We as bosses, Eddie has told me he's comfortable with that phrase. I think we've been very supportive of young Edward this week.
Well, it was completely taken out of context.
Yes, it was ridiculous bullshit.
I would, anybody that was offended by that, I would offer a official statement from the Radosevich news agency would probably be you. I don't care.
Yeah. I'll allow it.
The thing that surprised me was that Eddie gave it context. He explained it to the people that didn't understand it. And I feel like that's growth from Eddie. Normally it would have just been the f*** you and we move on. But I feel like Eddie was like, listen, there's a reason this is funny. Look at why it's funny. And I thought the board...
He explained his art, which you should never do.
Oh.
Well, I think if I had to do it all over again, I would have just waited and sent out the context in the entire thing.
It was a complete betrayal, though, for another media organization to take a media member out of context just so people could be like,
doesn't surprise me considering who it was.
What kind of journalism is it? ESPN did it, too.
No, that's what I'm talking about most importantly, because I tagged them in the original tweet.
Yeah.
Just you can
have my permission.
You have my permission to use it. Never thinking that they would.
Which I did.
It must have been a slow news day.
I did file a copyright claim on Instagram against CBS
Yeah, I don't
Sports.
think that they look at those.
I don't either.
Because it never got taken down.
I guess Facebook, Russians meddling. You still suck, Facebook.
I think that honestly,
that's what I love about the whole thing. CBS is like, oh, look at this journalist,
Yeah.
as we don't require any credit for this, and we just take this.
And
for our
because
own.
we weren't there, like, yeah, let's make fun of the people who are actually there covering shit so you have things to put on, to aggregate. So you have things to copy and steal and put up on your... Let's make fun of those people.
Sorry, I'm waiting for Eric Bailey to tweet something so I can steal everything that he wrote this morning and aggregate it for this afternoon.
Yeah, that's the CBS way.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think there were some lesser people that tried to do the same, but
Sure.
who cares about them?
No, it was fine. It was. I thought the entire thing was funny. I thought the mentions in the ESPN story were even better, just as far as people that just
don't get it.
Don't get it, or they wanted people fired, or they wanted.
How does this? It was hard for me, and I've told you this. And we're gonna get to the Florida State deal, but I've just decided that I am not going to get into this. I am being Bob Prisbillo. I'm trying to be the responsible one now.
job.
I'm letting Eddie be the loose cannon. It's your job to be Sooner Scoop's loose cannon. I'm just not like people are like, how is this person? And I was like a proud father. I was like wanting to say, hey, motherfucker. I'm the one who employs him, and he works harder than you'll ever work. And you're like, I wanted to do
done
that.
That would have been fun.
But that's so dad.
No,
I don't want to do that.
It was ridiculous. The entire thing was ridiculous. But I will say, like, for the people out there that just like, in a strange way, this bothered me the most out of all of it. Like, the people that don't find the irony or think it's funny at all. Like, I just don't get that. How you could listen to a guy say that they wanted to go 1-0 all the time.
Yeah,
I don't know. That's just me,
it's
though.
just the whole thing about. And look, the guys know I'm writing a story about this, and it pertains to kind of everything that's gone on after Kansas State. Like, there's a rhyme and a reason why Jalen Hurts was that way. I mean, we all know this. He is trying to get past Kansas State, and you'll notice, like, all the questions that didn't have to do with Iowa State, that's the ones that people want to ask, and they want to know, like, how did you handle this emotionally, and how are you going to come back from this? And oh my God, you never lost a game like this at Alabama. How are you? Like, there was actually a question this week, and I don't want to rip on anybody, but someone basically said, "Are you leaning on your teammates that usually lose games to be able to?" Or like, the question was like, "Are you trying to help Jalen through this because he doesn't know what it's like to lose a game this early in the season?" And I was like, my God, what a
worst question of the week.
How far are we going?
Or not even to mention the fact that, like, they've been in this spot before. They've done this. They do this every year.
Well, and it goes back to what I said about recruiting. It's not like Jalen Hurts didn't lose a game in high school.
Sure.
Maybe one that he shouldn't have lost, probably. I mean, anyway, but yeah, I mean, that's the whole thing. It turns into this, oh, I wish Jalen wouldn't be such a dick at the press conferences, and why can't he just, loosen up a little? What he's doing is he's saying, look, we're moving on. All you guys want to do is talk about the loss to Kansas State because, by the way, that's what you get, Lincoln, when you don't let players talk in the bye week because you can't get past it. You're 2 weeks down the road, and nobody's been able to ask those questions, so they're asking them now.
I will say that, and we can move on from the subject, but Jalen is, I would say, from a certain extent, trolling a lot of people when he's up there on the podium.
Yeah.
He's not this robot that you think that he is, and I think that oftentimes people only see that, the 30-second clip or hear the 45-second clip in the mornings on the on the radio, or the 30-second, 15-second clip on Twitter. And I think in a way that they he's kind of gotten this stigma that, like, even Bob might have fallen into a little bit, and Nick Saban certainly falls into, just as far as they're not the most, I mean, they're not just the dicks that you think they are.
No, when you see him in person and you see, like I said that many times, it's been 2 times I've covered Nick Saban in bowl games, and both times, like, before he gets to the podium, even at the podium, there's some subtle things that you don't see through sound bites, but he's not as big a dick as you think he is. And you can tell, like, now when he's doing this stuff, like, people are chuckling, like, in the Alabama media press corps.
Now, notice I say dick. He's crazy. The guy's nuts.
Saban?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the guy's nuts. What you see is
There's
what you
the
get on the
difference.
on the sideline.
But I mean, Bob was the same way. People thought he was such a dick
yeah.
because of his sound bites, and look, here's what it comes down to for me, guys. They set up press conferences for this reason. They want to be able to speak to the media and therefore speak to the fans through the media. Like it's a public relations situation. But you do get some people like Bob Stoops, like Nick Saban, like Jalen Hurts that don't care about that. They don't care. They're not there to talk to the fans through the media. They are there to represent their team, and their message is for the team. It's not for the public. Like Jalen Hurts' message, when he's there speaking in front of microphones and TV cameras, he's talking to his team the whole time. He's got that persona of quarterback, leader. I'm talking to my team. I don't do giggles and hee-haws up here. That's not what I'm here for.
It'd be fun if you did. But
Some people do.
yeah, Baker Mayfield.
And we love those people.
Yeah, absolutely.
What if, like, Jalen gets to the final week and he just finally lets it go? He just becomes that guy we all thought he was.
Well, they better be playing in the Sun Bowl or something like that.
Just some bro at the end of No Nut November, just letting it loose out on everybody.
Just refusing to wear OU gear openly.
That'd be funny. Or just retires. They lose another game. He retires from OU.
You know what? If we get behind, I might just quit.
I'd do that. I'd quit right now. I'd already quit.
But to me, yeah, that's the thing. It's like everybody, and you have all these people that always want to comment on everything. And that's just society. I feel like Mike Gundy right now, getting on the Twitter fingers, and but like everybody has to come up with like a villain and a hero. It's like the media is just that's what you want to know why Jalen Hurts treats the media like he does, because that dumbass question from that reporter.
Yeah, that's the most ridiculous take out there. That for sure is the most.
No. The most ridiculous take is on the board right now. Do you know what I'm talking about? Josh, you have to know what I'm talking about.
Oh, there was a guy that said I was a racist.
No, that's not it.
Holy hell. I missed that.
That was on Twitter,
I
though.
did miss that one. Yeah.
okay.
That was on Twitter. It was just another example of a black quarterback having to prove himself. And I responded to it with a pleasantry of something to the effect of, that's not a very smart thing to say.
And then he called
I'm
you
sure
racist.
it was just that. I'm sure it was just that kosher.
No, but
That's
the
very
worst
unintelligent.
The worst take on our message board right now is that OU lost because the media isn't as professional in Oklahoma as they are in Alabama. Yes. That's maybe the most ridiculous thing I've ever read on our message boards.
And for our members that listen, like we know, like there are guys that we talk about. They're like, that dude's like a bad take machine. Like there are guys on the board who post crazy stuff regularly. This is not a guy. This is not one of my suspects that I'm like, yeah, he usually says something like that. That guy is
out of character.
Yeah, like it was. I read it, and I read that same paragraph like 3 times. Like, is there some way I'm reading that wrong, or is the context off? But no, like you guys, Eddie, you screwing around in media sessions is costing OU national titles.
I'd take full responsibility for that.
3 straight years, Eddie. 3 straight.
Chase for 8, and then it's all just gone because of Eddie.
It's funny because a year ago, I thought the mantra was they weren't asking the tough questions. Or I guess it's kind of in the same tone, isn't it?
It's hard for people to do that with Mike Stoops gone, which might lead to some of the frustrations that we see.
It all boils down to one thing, and it's in a way, I guess, looking for reasons or excuses for why 19, 20-year-old football players, college students, played the way that they did 2 weeks ago.
Well, and I generally think, and this is more of a Twitter-generated theory, and probably on the board too, but I literally think that and if you're listening to this podcast and I'm getting ready to describe you and you're going to be offended, I'm sorry. But it is literally every white guy that lives in, the suburbs that has those Oakley glasses from the 90s.
Which were sweet.
20 years ago.
Are sweet. Still sweet.
They're coming back around. Like, those guys are going to be really lucky when those Bobby Bowden glasses come back in style.
I'm
The
just
Chuckamatos.
I'm just waiting
Yeah,
for
the
the day that the
Chuckamatos, yeah.
Sean Dunston flip sunglasses come back, because when they do, they were always too big for my face. But guess what?
They
I have
fit
them,
now.
and they fit, and they look glorious.
But in some form or fashion, that guy truly believes that they lost the game because they've gotten entitled and fat and happy and stopped caring
Fat
as
and sassy.
much as they do. Like, they really feel like players lose games because they just don't care. They're just, maybe some people are stupid millennials, or some people are just like, fat, happy athletes. I mean, it's just like, no, they care more than you do. I can guarantee you these guys care more than you do about winning and losing. I know you think you care a lot, but you don't care as much as these guys do about winning and losing football games.
It's so relatable, though, isn't it? Because, like, at least for me, it is just the way that I watch, Cubs baseball or watch the Thunder when I was
it is
invested.
relatable,
It's like you get, like,
son
why
of a
don't you
bitch,
care?
yeah.
Like, that's as a fan, I think that's your only kind of out, in a way, for explaining to yourself or reasoning to yourself why a
they
team
lost, yeah.
plays bad or plays poorly. It's, the Cubs lost like their last 8 games. It's like, oh, these motherfuckers just don't care.
Yeah.
Why don't they care?
Yeah.
And when in reality, it's like, well, they literally bust their ass every day during the summer. Like, they're just as disappointed as you. I mean, don't you feel kind of the same way, Josh?
Yeah, but Eddie, I can hear you like struggling to make yourself say the Cubs care. Like you were,
Cubs
like,
care.
Yeah, he
I
did.
mean,
you knew logically you were right, but you were like, "Damn it, Cubs!"
Well, and I mean, this group definitely didn't care. That's why they. That's why they had to fire. That's why they fired the goddamn manager.
But no,
So
I
there
mean,
was that was a bad example, because this group definitely didn't care.
Like, who did the Colts just lose to, Josh? That was a don't care game, right? They got down big.
Steelers.
got the Steelers.
Oh yeah, they lost to the Steelers, and they got were they up big, and then they just gave it up.
Jacoby Brissett got hurt, and
Okay.
it just
Yeah.
kind of was back and forth. Homeboy
Didn't
threw
have
it.
T.Y. Hilton.
Yeah,
It
threw
was-
a pick
it wasn't
six,
great.
and
Laces weren't out.
that's the worst excuse in the world. He's the best kicker ever. Like, you just can't trust the guy. I completely
wasn't-
Josh, I completely agree with you. If Adam Vinatieri just goes away forever, and it's not because I lost money on the game. I swear.
Swear.
Like, at least with pro football, you can give age like a blame. You could be like,
Yeah.
Adam Vinatieri is just too old. He finally's going off the cliff.
Well, and listen, I mean, I just kind of rounding back to the OU thing, and Josh, I know I interrupted you, but it's just like it's just one of those things. Like, they played extremely poorly in Manhattan. I think that
Terrible.
We've gone over this time and time again, but there's really no other excuse than they had a bad day.
I think fans love to run to the they don't care, because it doesn't. They don't have to say we weren't good enough on this day.
Sure.
Our
Yeah.
team wasn't good
Sure.
enough, and I think that's hard for fans to say.
You
And I
never
get
want to
it.
admit your team isn't as good as somebody else.
Exactly. Like, as an Arsenal is where I get my crazy fan out. Like, I'm like, fucking Manchester United, they're terrible. Like, oh, we didn't care today. It was the rain. It was that referee. Like, it can't just be, they're just better than us today. Like, they were just better than we were. And that doesn't mean Kansas State's a better team. If OU and Kansas State play 100 times, OU probably wins 90. Like, I mean, the OU is a better team, but on that day, Kansas State was just better than they were. But I will say, the whole care, don't care thing, it's like the old Mike Leach quote. The fans are like the chicken. They're involved, but the pig's committed. Like, the players are out there sweating, working their ass off. The fans, like, they're drinking a beer in the stands. Like, it's not to say they don't care. Obviously, the fans do. But you can't begin to relate that, how that works. Like, those guys they're all working hard. They had no desire to lose that game. It just happens.
I literally got to see Eddie work his way through that analogy. Like, I saw his brain working.
Well, I just
You get it, right?
yeah, no, I think I do, but
The chicken gives you food without
Right.
giving its life. It gives you eggs.
well,
The pig, if you want to eat the chicken,
that's it. If you're eating farm prepared
the
eggs,
pig
I do
has to
not.
die to produce food.
Well, that depends on where you're getting your food. I'm thinking about going plant-based myself.
Are you watching UNCP3?
No, I have a couple buddies that have. It sounds awful, but I don't understand why anybody would want to do that.
Apparently
If I couldn't eat meat, life would not be worth living.
apparently
boy.
that documentary will change your life.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have watched it. I saw couple other people last night
I think
tweeting
I saw
about
Zach Sanchez declaring he was going to do it after watching that video.
Do I need to watch it while eating a steak? Because I will totally do it.
I'm one of those guys that they always talk about health code violations and stuff. Some of the best Chinese places I've ever eaten.
You got really
probably
mad.
Would not be code.
You got really mad when somebody tried to out the Pad Thai place on Campus Corner.
Well, that's just completely, Pad Thai.
Because they were making like jerky in the back or something.
Yeah, it might have been out of dog or something, but who cares? As long as you don't tell me what about it or let me
As long as
see
it tastes like chicken.
Now, I will
or
say,
pork.
if I see it, I have a hard time getting it. Like, if you go through, Whataburger is a perfect example. I'll always eat at Whataburger.
Yeah.
Don't really care. But, that first little window is always unoccupied, and you can kind of see in. Same thing with In-N-Out, I think. Mm-hmm. It's like, I don't necessarily want to look left right now. I don't.
Well,
that makes
it's
me feel
weird.
uncomfortable.
They used to, I think it was like a Southwest, kind of like a Wichita Falls, but when we go over to Lawton, like you guys have been to Fuddruckers, right? We've been to Fuddruckers. Well, Eddie and I will always go to Fuddruckers in El Paso together. That's
Whenever we're in El Paso, we go to Fuddruckers.
But they used to have a Fuddruckers competitor called Long Neckers, and they had this in Lawton.
I've not heard of that.
You never heard of that?
No.
They had one in Lawton, and it was horrific for people like me and Eddie because they literally had the cows hanging up like on hooks, on meat hooks, as you walked in the door. So you were looking at a dead cow.
That reminds me of Raisins on South Park.
Welcome to Raisins.
that just reminded me of that.
Yeah, it was kind of like, I don't know about this place.
Yeah, whatever. What a weird tangent we just got off
cutie.
Reasons. All right. The other. Okay, so we've established we're moving past Kansas State. Do we have any business further needs to be discussed from Kansas? I will just say one thing about the fans and blaming things. This to me is the most. If you want to say, okay, what's one thing you think is legitimate with fans and beefs and things like that? I totally think it's legitimate for fans to complain about how they're not using the running backs. Or when you see things, defensively not getting turnovers, okay, maybe we should have made a bigger deal out of that. When you see something, even though you're not losing, that's not good or, it's just like with Eric Swinson. You knew when Eric Swinson was going to face a really good defensive end, it's probably going to be there's some trouble there. You notice things that are going wrong or not, as running as smoothly as they should be, and that you worry they're going to come back to bite you. So when you complain about that stuff, I'm fully supportive of that.
No, and I think that's fair points. They're all fair points. And, it's funny that even going back to that week leading up to the Kansas State game, Alex Grinch kind of foreshadowed what was going to happen as far as the turnover thing isn't a big deal until it is a big deal.
Yeah.
And their inability to force any turnover. Their last turnover, Bob, was Neville Gallimore, right? Against
Gallimore.
Tech. And that was more so just a hustle play on his part to knock a ball from behind than anything. So, I think that, in a way that this Iowa State game in the next couple of weeks with Baylor, who I think is, we can get into the Big 12 stuff later on in the podcast, just as far as, Baylor
rankings.
Kind of crazy, what Baylor's doing. But anyways, I think it's just kind of interesting that, you look at Oklahoma and going into these next couple of weeks, I'm pretty intrigued to see what this team is. I think that is this team closer to what you saw in the first 7 games, or is it closer to what you saw in Manhattan as far as a team that handled adversity very poorly, couldn't get off the field, just basically kind of looked like an unfinished product in a way that it makes you wonder, what is this team made out of? I think I have an inkling of what they are, but we'll see. You could sit here and tell me that OU is going to win out and do it impressively. You could also make the case that OU is going to go down to Waco and get beat, possibly get beat in Stillwater, and all of a sudden you look up and OU's a 9-3 team as opposed to a team playing for their 5th Big 12 title. I think you can make legitimate arguments for both sides of it.
And that's why
that happens, they better start Rattler in the bowl game then.
Well,
season's over.
That's why I was glad.
They'll have to use Florida State's search form
There-
to look for a head coach as well.
I was glad we got Trey Brown Monday because he's the one. He's the one in Manhattan that had the 2 golden opportunities. Maybe that one near the end zone would have been a tough one, but that fourth quarter one when Skylar Thompson's thrown back into the middle of the field, we agreed last week that if Trey catches that, the Sooners most likely win that game. And it was nice to hear Trey, kind of just say it has been tough to get over because he's letting those chances slip by. These aren't like made up ones where only in their minds. Like there's one against Texas. He said he thought he almost had. It's like, no, you were just playing catch up to try to make sure you could knock it away. Kansas State was the first game where it's like you're actually really missing out on chances that this team needs.
What's amazing is Trey Brown, when we first met him, it was that Bedlam game on the road.
And had 2 picks.
He intercepted like 3 passes in a row, and they overturned the first 2.
They overturned both of his picks, yes.
He couldn't, every time the ball went in the air, he was intercepting it. And now it hits him right in the face and he can't catch it. It's bizarre. So, yeah, I mean, Iowa State, I think, and I guess we should talk about the playoff.
Oh, yeah.
Because the playoff rankings did come out yesterday. Before we do that, let me remind you guys, MidFirst Bank, the title sponsor of the Unofficial 40 podcast, appreciate them jumping on board this season with us. And they've got a special webpage set up for you because they would like you to have a little OU in your wallet. They are the exclusive provider of the OU credit card. And if you just go to this site, midfirst.com/U40, that's midfirst.com/U40, you can sign up for the OU Rewards credit cards right there. Apply now. Shows you a little picture of the card. It's just a big crimson card with the OU logo on it. Every time you whip that baby out, you'll also be registered for a chance to win the ultimate game day experience. And this is how it works. Every qualifying purchase made with your OU Rewards credit card earns you a chance to win the ultimate game day experience with VIP tickets to a football or basketball game. Plus, you get $500. So you'll enjoy 0% APR for the first year. So 12 months, 0%. Go ahead and sign up for that. You can apply today. And you'll earn 15,000 bonus points by spending $1,000 in the first 90 days from your account opening. So midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. Sign up for the MidFirst Bank OU Rewards credit card today. All right, so the playoff rankings come out last night. Josh, we'll start with you because I really feel like we've just banged you over the head today and kept you in the background. What were your thoughts? Was it kind of what you expected? I would assume it's what we all kind of expected.
I thought Oklahoma was going to be anywhere from 7 to 9. I thought all those things were possible. I'm a little surprised they came out below Utah. I don't really know what Utah has on the resume that really exceeds what Oklahoma's done. Georgia, it's a question of, do you like the bad loss more or do you like the good wins? Because Georgia's got better wins. Oklahoma has a far less ugly loss. So, I don't know what to make of that. But, I mean, the thing that's clear, Oklahoma needs a lot of help. This is not going to – you just look at it. You've got to think of LSU, Alabama, and Georgia almost certainly – or certainly one of them's getting in, and there's a good bet on 2. Ohio State's almost certainly going to make it, or Penn State, one of the 2. Clemson's getting in. They've got a free ride to the playoffs. It's just really hard to see how those numbers are going to work out, short of like that 2007 season that just became utter chaos in the last month.
Yeah, this feels a lot like 2016, where even though OU started to play their best ball during October, November, that 1-2 start, you never felt they had a real chance of making the playoff. It feels like even if they run the table this year, it's just going to be incredibly difficult to still sneak in at number 4 because we know that there's teams ahead of them that are going to lose. What we don't know is when the loser of Penn State, Ohio State, the loser of Bama, LSU, if they're still ahead of OU, what can the Sooners actually do to get ahead of some of those teams?
I think it's pretty funny, though, at the same time that Utah has less than a 5% chance to play in the college football playoff. Like, even if they win out.
Yeah.
And I think it's just interesting how the College Football Playoff Committee looks at this thing as far as, like even, and I understand the strength of schedule, the game control
Quality
shit,
wins,
all of that.
top
But
25
it's
wins.
it's insane to me to think that a team like a Baylor that's undefeated is behind all these one-loss teams.
It's like we talked about. It's a blue blood thing.
I know it is, but
if
you switch
And two losses.
It's the unspoken rules of the college playoff rankings
if
committee.
you switch the resumes though in Oklahoma, if Oklahoma had Baylor's resume, there's no chance that a one-loss
12,
Baylor would be 9,
yeah.
and a undefeated Oklahoma would be 12.
Yeah.
Like, there's just no way that would happen. And that's why I just think like it, and I'm not going to go off on the Heisman Trophy again, I swear, but it's another one of those examples, and it benefits Oklahoma, so there's no reason to bitch about it. But if you're an OU fan, but there's only 6 or 7 teams that can win the national title in football unless you fill out the criteria of a non-blue blood, and one of them is you have to go undefeated.
By the way, I'll play this in a little bit, but there was anyway. Here's my thoughts. Just
the meltdown on the teleconference.
Yeah, it was really good.
It was.
But no, I mean, you're right. I mean, the whole thing with Alabama is their strength of schedule is crap. Like, if they lose to LSU, they shouldn't be in over another conference champion, and that's. If they're really going to value conference champions and conference title games, that's what gives OU an advantage. Like,
sure.
They really need LSU to beat Alabama.
Yes.
I agree, because Alabama beating LSU, OU won't jump LSU.
Correct.
LSU
Correct.
beats Alabama, OU will jump Bama, I think.
Yeah, I guess my next question would be how and why, what is the method to the madness as far as like a 538 and their projections? Have you delved into any of that?
I've left that to you to see.
OU, even this morning, if they went out, if LSU wins out, if Clemson wins out, and if Ohio State wins out, and Oregon wins out, we'll throw Oregon in there too, because that would mean that they would be beating
Oregon
Utah.
has Arizona State, and Oregon State left. That's all they have left. So they're not going to get any quality wins.
And neither is Utah, because they have Colorado, UCLA, and UCLA, who holds their. If they went out there, the Pac-12
they're
South
in the
champions.
Pac-12.
Which, if you would have told me that leaving the Rose Bowl, I would have said you're insane.
They control their
Although
own
I was
destiny.
going through PTSD after almost getting shot, so it's just crazy. Like, if all those teams went out, OU has like a 66 or 67% chance of getting in. If Oregon doesn't win out, if they lose, that number goes all the way up to like 79%. Which those numbers don't make sense to me, knowing with what you see when the College Football Playoff Committee puts out their rankings. With that said, though, I understand, like, if a conference champion doesn't get in, like if an Oklahoma didn't get in over an Alabama, we should never talk about conference championships meaning a thing.
You know where everybody is truly f***ed, though. Here's the scenario where everybody is screwed completely, is if Georgia beats an undefeated LSU in the SEC championship game.
Absolutely.
Oh, boy.
Then it's Ohio State, and boy, Clemson might be in trouble at that point. I mean, if you're just talking about resumes, they could be in trouble in that.
Well,
that
and
situation.
I think that would just all of a sudden come
Depends
down
on what
to,
happens in the Big Ten.
It would become a festival of. It would actually be the country versus the SEC.
Just the SEC quarterfinals.
Basically, because I mean, how good is Georgia? I really don't know. I don't think Notre Dame's good at all.
Georgia is regressing offensively under Kirby Smart. Like, Jake Fromm is not the Jake Fromm he even was when OU played him in the Rose Bowl. Like, he's getting worse.
It's like they're like becoming more SEC.
He had better
by the week.
receiver. Yeah, he had. Well, they're becoming more Tua Alabama.
Sure.
He's Jake from Travelers Insurance, not State Farm.
Yeah, they
falling
should just
down.
call him Jake Fromm from now on. Just no longer call him Fromm.
That wouldn't be bad.
Somebody, like, if Kitty Mayne was still doing sports and every night, he'd come up with that, I bet.
There'd be no O in from.
Yeah.
Big firm.
But that's the nightmare scenario.
Yep.
Although I don't know that Georgia's good enough to beat LSU or Alabama.
I don't know. I go back and forth. I kind of might be leaning towards LSU winning this weekend.
I think they're gonna. I
don't
they're
think
more
Tua's
complete
going to
and
be anywhere near 100%.
So
I
then,
think so. Even if he can go, he won't be right.
is that the thing that keeps Bama
Yeah, that's the
afloat?
thing.
Because Tua wasn't.
You really
100%.
want Tua to be healthy. Well, here's the other argument to be
Which
made.
is just it still blows my mind that there's a mentality at which I think that there is some credence to it, just as far as sit Tua. Just don't let him play. And if
Yeah.
they do that, if I'm LSU, I sit Burrow. They already have a better schedule or a better resume.
They basically,
and they wouldn't be punished for losing on the road. Might as well just sit your quarterback.
Yeah.
Like, what a terrible precedent that is. And I understand
but
why
you're
the
still
playoff
playing
committee.
for the problem with that is you're playing for a division.
Sure.
So I mean,
No, that makes sense. That would be taking it to the next extreme for sure.
that's never punting, is what that is. And I don't think that. Well, I could see Ed Orgeron one day graduating to a never punt type of coach, but Nick Saban is never going to do that.
no.
But here's the other scenario that I think is interesting to talk about with the playoff rankings, and that is, let's say OU wins out. What is the best scenario for them in the Big 12 title game? Because I think it is Kansas State winning out.
They need a lot of help then.
Well, but
They need Baylor to fall flat.
I don't think Baylor is that good.
But they'd have to
talked
lose
about this on
3
the board.
times.
I know, but they
three times in the next
4 weeks.
4 weeks. Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem.
But they have to play Texas still. They have to play TCU. They have to play Oklahoma.
And they get to get
And then
against
Kansas.
And then they get Kansas.
I mean,
It's-
unless you can get a bunch of teams with 2 losses and then tiebreakers go crazy.
You would have to.
Because Baylor's beat Kansas State.
Right.
I almost think that Baylor would have to lose this week for that to
Yeah,
become
you're right.
a
No,
possibility
you're right.
in a way, because they do own the tiebreaker with Kansas State. And, I don't think – did I just miss something last week when Max Dugan got hurt?
It was late, and he'd already thrown a bunch of picks. I mean,
Okay.
OSU was –
I thought that came out of nowhere.
OSU was just murdering him.
And Alex Delton's left the program.
Yeah, they're starting like a –
They put the Collins
They're
kid
starting
back
a
in.
walk-on.
He hurt his hand, and then Collins came in, but then Duggan came back, and I think he threw another interception. So they were just like, okay, well, let's just go with Collins the rest of the way.
Hey guys, another big breaking update. Trace Ford's really good at football.
Yeah, he is. I like that kid from the moment I saw him.
Would you rather Wete or Ford? I think that would be something we're all looking back in the next 2-3 years.
Yep. Now, with Wete, you can obviously make the argument of, did that open DC up for Oklahoma in some area? I mean, like, did that change their ability to go get Aaron Parks and Anton Harrison? Did they make those guys more viable? Which
they already
if that's
had.
the case,
They already had.
maybe.
Golly, why can't I
Parnell
remember?
Motley and
Parnell Motley and then Will Johnson and Charles Tapper.
yeah. Well, those are Baltimore guys, but same.
Yeah.
Basically the same idea. Now, guys, have you looked at Texas's remaining schedule? I was in a board chat earlier this week. I think
It's gonna be
there's a
tough.
better chance that Texas is 6-6
Yep.
than they're 8-4.
wow.
It's
They've
not
got-
an easy stretch.
Wowie wow.
And they just got a
Kansas State
commitment
this week.
yesterday from somebody.
Yep. Wide receiver out of Hutto. So, I mean, not, right in their backyard. Then they go to Iowa State, at Baylor, and then you'd think they would win their last one at home against Texas Tech.
Right now, I could make an argument. Right now, I'd probably say 2-2.
That's my guess. I think they'll go 7-5. But if you were going to tell me
My God.
3-1 or 1-3, I'd take 1-3.
I'm
I
telling
think.
you, man.
I mean, this
that-
weekend is a major swing game for them. Because
Yes.
if they win this weekend, you go 3-1 at worst.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this: if you've had a disappointing year, and you go to the Sugar Bowl, and you're in the Big 12, throw the game. Don't win
Right?
that game. It
We
leads
just
to
saw
bad
it happen
things.
twice
Like,
now.
and you don't even have to throw it as a head coach. Like, just know if you're an offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator, you're probably going to get fired the next year. Like, Todd Orlando should have thrown that game. Just like Josh Heupel should have thrown that game.
Is there any credence to they're beat up and young? Or is that just an excuse?
It's not an excuse. It's
Or
reality.
a reality.
But they're young every year.
Tell me why Sam Ehlinger has had a poor year.
No, I think there's a lot of people yelling at their listening device right now saying because he's a shitty quarterback.
Or maybe it's because, DuVernay became their best receiver.
He did.
Like, where did that come from? Like, Colin Johnson, we've talked about him many times. Like, I thought there's a reason Eagles got pissed off because he was making plays, but he was never getting the ball. I thought he was a good receiver. He was probably the best receiver in that OU game.
Yeah, I would say so.
I can't even remember the stats, but
Josh, you kind of was one of the first people to be carrying this banner, but Colin Johnson's completely disappeared.
I like I said, he's one of those guys that I get it. All the parts are there, but the sum doesn't equal them. There's a lot to like.
Is he one of those guys that maybe looking back at it should have came out?
Well, if little Jordan Humphrey's any indication, no.
Yeah, that's true.
And the leading receiver in the conference, the kid from Texas Tech, came out early and didn't
even get drafted.
A lot of respect for receivers in the NFL from the Big 12. So
I wonder what Tylan Wallace will do. Because I gotta think he was gonna get drafted pretty high.
Yep.
Just physical skills. He wasn't a product of his height or, he was fast as hell and he's great in one-on-one situations. He's a baller.
Just show him that play against Iowa State and be like, okay, I'll hang up and
God.
listen.
I can do this for you. This is my resume.
Yeah.
This is it.
He's like the one guy
do.
that, is right there with CeeDee Lamb where you just they have just holy shit plays.
Yeah, every time they touch the ball, you have a feeling that they could break it.
Well, think of your team. Like if the Colts came and were like, they're going to use a second-round pick on Tylan Wallace, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I got no problem with that. So now, first-rounder where he might have been before, no, probably not. But second, third-round guy, I'd take him all day. And for that, how much is he going to move up in a year? Maybe 15, 20 spots, maybe. It's just not worth it when you look at it from, financial side of things.
What's bizarre is you can say, last year was the year to come out if you're a receiver, but think of all those guys we just mentioned that didn't even get drafted.
Sure.
The guy from Arizona State that just got active for the Patriots. What's his name? N'Keal Kelly or whatever?
N'Keal Harris?
N'Keal Harris.
Yeah.
N'Keal Harris or whatever, yeah. Wasn't he in the first round last year? Or at the end of the first round?
He was the last pick by the Patriots.
I have seen though the draft class at wide receiver this year
it looks ridiculous.
It's ridiculous.
Crazy good.
Jerry Jeudy, you got the kid, the Chenault kid at Colorado, CeeDee Lamb, Rager, T. Higgins,
Henry Ruggs at Alabama.
Henry Ruggs, Wallace, obviously, if he decides to come out, Peoples-Jones at Michigan.
Yep.
It's pretty loaded this year.
Yeah, it's going to be a good draft.
Guys, I never thought I would say this in the preseason. I could make a real case that CeeDee Lamb should be the number one receiver. And I love Jerry Jeudy, man. I love him. But the stuff Lamb is doing in moments when Oklahoma needs him is just – that's like number one alpha wide receiver stuff.
It's kind of – he's not the same build, but it's very Julio Jones-ish.
Yeah.
The 75-yarder, because they lost, probably doesn't get the respect that it should. Would that be a fair way to put it?
I think that's exactly right. How many – I'm just trying to think of how many times even a really good receiver would have gone down on that play. He could have given up on that play 4 different times, and he just kept working downfield.
No, I completely agree. He's been exceptional, and it's funny that really it's come on in the last month of the this past month of the season. Just as far as weren't we sitting here on the unofficial 40? What was that, the week before the Tech game? Talking about maybe this guy needs to show up a little bit.
He wasn't getting touches,
and then
it's not his problem.
And then he had 1 million yards and 1 million touchdowns, and we're talking about him like we are now.
Now we're talking about running backs.
He is number 10 in the country right now in receiving yards. He has 36 catches. The closest guy to him in front of him has 53. And that guy has, There's a 53 with 962, so he has about 150 yards on 17. So CeeDee'd need like 11 yards a catch to catch him. Like, I mean, just insane what he's doing.
All right, I don't know. I got sucked down a rabbit hole just checking my mentions, just making sure no more Facebook interlopers were attacking me from Florida State.
Yeah, let's talk, Kerry. I mean, Sooner Scoop had a serious 48 hours in the spotlight thanks to Eddie, Jalen Hurts, and you in Florida State.
You're welcome.
That's what we do. That's what we do, baby. No, it was crazy. It's been a like, I remember coming out of the bye week and thinking last weekend was so slow and plodding. I was like, God, we have 4 more weeks. Like, now it's Wednesday, and I feel like I just had that thought 5 minutes ago. Like, game weeks are ridiculous. And then when stuff like that happens, it's just even more ridiculous.
The whole entire Bob Stoops thing, though, is...
Well, you guys know, like, I didn't give it
saying,
any credence because I just knew it was bullshit from the beginning.
Tallahassee, Florida is the trashiest city in the country.
We got a lot of Wendy's in Tallahassee.
The whole entire thing, I guess we'll go back all the way
off at that like club that had wood everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Like on the corner, that was like the big. I don't know what the name of that place was.
I bought some meth from behind there. I stayed up all night. No, I'm just kidding. It's an interesting city. I can see why people party all the time and do nothing but.
It's a lovely campus and everything, but like their campus corner area, they don't really have one. It's just a weird.
Tallahassee's a weird town.
It's a weird little collection of places around the campus.
I'll just say it's a shithole.
There's a reason. Like, that to me is the very definition of the dirty South. When people say the dirty South, I know that's Atlanta, but
as a whole, I'd say Florida's a bottom 10 state. But
can you really say Tallahassee's in Florida, though?
No, that's true. It's more like it's in
so
Alabama.
Far away from
Florida's
everything
just
else.
such a weird place. I don't. There's no other way to say it.
Florida's kind of like driving from El Paso through Texas. It's like, oh, we've been in Florida for 6 hours now.
You can. I mean,
like, and you haven't even gone south yet.
Hollywood, Florida to Tallahassee's like 400-something miles, 450 miles.
Is there a more polar opposite area in one state than like South Beach to Tallahassee?
No.
Or,
well, trying to think of somewhere in California. I mean, I've never really been to Northern California, though.
I mean, San Diego's totally different from San Francisco.
Sure.
But not...
Is that because of the...
but it's...
game?
I mean, it's just closer to Mexico. There's more, Mexico influence.
That's why we're trying to build a wall down there, Kerry.
Man.
The Bay is just homeless drug addicts.
Yeah.
Now.
Although
rich,
homeless drug addicts, rich tech industry.
Or
there's no middle. There's no middleman.
My best friend lives there, and he's lived there forever. And his family has money. He works for the IRS, but he probably couldn't live there if just off of what he makes at the IRS. So I don't know. It's a weird discussion. So anyway, but you guys knew this. I didn't want to really get into it. I didn't want to bother Bob because I just thought it was a bullshit thing. But then what happens is once someone with a TV station starts reporting things,
the joke was on us. Looking back on it, the joke was on us to even take that seriously.
But it's like, it's not us taking it seriously. It's the general public.
No,
like,
yeah.
If you have a report from a television station, it's kind of like, we talk about people don't care where their news comes from, and they just want. That's why aggregation is such a huge industry now in journalism. Like, they don't care. They just want their news. Like, they don't care if, like, our users have told us, like, we don't care if your rumors aren't true. We just want your rumors. Like, we don't care if someone didn't really break their leg. Just tell us they broke their leg. So we have something to talk about.
It opens up an entire conversation about where we are in, I don't even want to say journalism, but like just society as a whole, just as far as people want information. It's gone from a who's reporting it to, okay, that's being reported. Now let's see if it's true type thing. Like, and it's funny to like hear it, But that's true. It's like people don't care who reports it. It's put it out there and then see the validity of it, or put it out there and then keep checking because you can hide behind, well, these sources have told me this, or this source has told me this. Anybody can be a source.
I don't know for a fact, but this is how I think you're right. Anybody can be a source. It's up to the reporter, and if they value their reputation and if they are responsible. Like, I don't want to be wrong on something. Like, I would rather not report something if I didn't feel good about it, if there was a chance I was going to be wrong.
Yeah, but you could say deals fall through, because that's what.
And I don't want to play that bullshit game.
Hey,
yeah, I don't want to play.
Fall through.
Well, it was going to happen, but Bob Stoops got talked out of it by his good friends Kirk Herbstreit and Paul Feinbaum. That was an actual motherfucking report.
Let me put it this way, or let me ask you guys, do you think 15 years ago you report something like that, Bob Stoops is going to be the next head coach at, and I forget how weird
say
the
Florida
was,
or
Florida
Notre
or
Dame.
whatever. You put it out there like that, like you would lose your job. There would be a credibility,
you would lose all credibility
type factor. Mm-hmm. With this, it's like, oh, well.
Well, that's the thing you're talking about, though. There's so many people that are playing reporter, that are playing, oh, I have sources. My sources are telling me this. Like, people have learned to play the source game, and they've also learned to play the game, like you said. Oh, it's a fluid situation. It's developing all the time. We don't know. This is what we're hearing, but it's a fluid situation, and that may change. Like, people have learned to be con men with information, and people buy into it. This girl at this TV station in Tallahassee didn't have good sources.
Let me ask you, Kerry, do you think that this was this is kind of what I have thought about this Florida State thing, and it might be a little bit of a bigger picture as far as how programs get to the point that they are, or where they are right now. It seems like this is a little bit of what you've seen at Texas and USC in the last couple of years, as far as probably, and this is just a generalization because I don't know this for a fact, but no leadership as far as the athletic department goes. Mm-hmm. Big money boosters that are
have too much control,
that have too much control, too much say, too much time on their hands, to a certain extent, and they get involved with reporters, and reporters trust these people, and all of a sudden you have a report out there that Bob Stoops is going to be the next head coach at Florida State.
Yeah, I do think. Look, I think that this is my theory on kind of what happened, is that I think probably Neil Cornrich did reach out, did probably talk to somebody at Florida State who is Bob Stoops' agent. And one of these boosters started leaking that.
Boosters.
And it may have been an exploratory thing for Neil Cornrich just doing his job, which is what agents do. Like, he's made Bob Stoops a lot of money. He's brought him really good deals. He has got him raises. Yeah, I mean, he's doing his job. His job, he put together the XFL deal. Like, he's just doing his job. But that doesn't mean Bob Stoops was interested. It means that he was going to go back to Bob Stoops and say, hey, I met with Florida State. This is what I think. This is where they are financially. Would you be interested in this? Like, do I think that maybe something exploratory happened like that? Yes, because the guy, he's an agent and he's trying to do his job. And then it, got leaked by one booster, like, we're meeting with Bob Stoops' agent, or, someone took a meeting with Bob Stoops' agent. And then it all of a sudden becomes, it's like anything else. It's like you go interview for a job and you go home to your family and you're like, I think it went really well. Like, I think I'm going to get the job. And, 2 hours later, they'll call you and say, I'm sorry, we filled the position. And it's just, you get hopeful in those situations. And I think some people in power got very hopeful.
And you kind of do one of those things where if you say it out loud and you kind of talk yourself into it. And that's basically kind of what you just said was, I think everybody's been there, whether it be a sports team or something that they really wanted or, whatever. It's like, if you just keep telling yourself it's going to happen, Sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't.
And let's face it, Florida State is desperate for someone. I mean,
Yeah.
I think the craziest thing about this, Josh, they won a national championship 5 years ago, and it feels like it was 45 years ago.
Do they feel that different than Nebraska right this moment? Not to me.
Yeah.
I mean, they feel that far away
that's exactly
from
right.
relevance. Now, the thing I'll say, and I don't want to get too deep into like, Big J journalism and all that kind of crap, but this is where, okay, clearly the Allison Posey and some of the other people we've talked about, there was clearly they were hearing things. I mean, I don't believe for a second this girl just threw things against the wall. She had some reason to believe what she did. But at the same time, you've got to come back and say, I'm going to talk to, what is she, the ABC reporter or
ABC,
something?
yeah.
Go to the OKC ABC affiliate and be like, hey, I'm hearing some things. Would Bob Stoops from Florida State make any sense? Bob Stoops always valued the continuity and just how well organized and well streamed the athletic department was at Oklahoma. There's nothing about that at Florida State. There's nothing that if no other evidence, look at this. Look at how this is. You almost wonder if this was a test by Bob Stoops. Like, let's see if my agent, if he has a meeting, let's see how fast this gets out. Like, let's see how quick this all happens. I guarantee you, if this was a Joe Castiglione run thing, it would not move like this.
Absolutely not. Yeah,
none of us would have known yet. Like, I don't believe that for a second. So this almost like let's throw up this weather balloon and see what happens here. So like you've got to go back and check a little bit and see does this really add up, or am I just going to go with my sources that don't really know Bob? I don't know Bob, and I don't know if that's a fit for him and if it makes any sense.
The thing, I mean, I didn't think it was legit in the first place, but then when you said he's keeping Kendall Briles,
that didn't make sense.
Like, what is going on here?
That was red flag number one.
I think it's pretty widely known Bob Stoops isn't a very big fan of the Briles family.
Yeah.
Like,
or their son-in-law, even though he played for him.
Or Jeff Lebby.
He's going to keep the guy around, and not only keep the guy around, mentor Kendall Briles to be the next head coach.
And we know Bob Stoops is known for, that's one thing he's proud of more than anything, is being known as running clean programs and not getting into NCAA trouble. So you think the first thing he's going to do is hire a member of the Art Briles family?
Pretty incredible.
And his whole time, with all the great assistants he had, he never once had a coach in waiting or even like a rumor of a backdoor handshake. Like, okay, like this guy's going to be the guy whenever Bob steps down. It worked out that way with Lincoln, but like I don't think that was ever like I don't think Bob woke up when the year after Lincoln was hired and said, okay, that's my future successor. Like I think that's the way it moved over time, but it was never the plan.
Yeah, I mean, it just became that thing where he felt like it was a good time for him to quit. I mean, he talks about this in his book, and it's a good time for him to quit, and felt good that Lincoln was the guy. His staff would be taken care of. They'd stay intact, and they'd be taken care of. So, like, he just felt like it was a good time. And obviously, he's partying with the tequila company with Dan Marino at a casino shaped like a Les Paul guitar. So he's enjoying himself.
He's enjoying life.
He's going to coach in the XFL where there's absolutely no pressure. The only pressure he has is just to do enough publicity to get people to come to games.
Hey, is that hotel the one that we saw that they were building?
It is. It's finally finished. Yeah,
it's crazy.
It just opened.
It just dawned on me that's where they were.
So badass. I mean, it's a skyscraper shaped like a Les Paul guitar.
It's incredible.
It's unbelievable.
It's probably the most incredible thing they have in Florida.
I think it cost them $3 billion to build that or something.
That's unbelievable.
By the way, I want to remind you guys coming up this weekend. Some of you, I hope, are getting out of the doldrums of the Kansas State loss and are interested in going to Iowa State and Oklahoma. Because if you go to SeatGeek right now, SeatGeek.com, or download the app, the prices are falling and tickets are going to start going faster and faster. So if you're hearing this, you need to download the SeatGeek app. I put in just now, okay, I want 2 tickets. What kind of prices can I get? They're down to $33, but that's for the very upper deck. Like if you want to get decent seats closer to the field, and not be freezing your ass off up there in the jet stream, those tickets are going to go really fast. And they're still reasonable tickets on SeatGeek because what they do is they go to all the tickets that are out there. They put them all in one place. They make it easy to find. They show you the best deal. They've got over 50,000 5-star reviews in the app stores. They rate them all on a scale of 1 to 10, and you can just go through there. It's really easy. Like I'm looking at this one, $47 Upper Deck, rated 9.2, an amazing deal. I'm trying to find, here's a Lower Deck for $44, 9.4, so it's an even better deal. You can search by those ratings, whatever. But also, SeatGeek will give you $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. All you need to do is use our promo code. Just download that SeatGeek app today. Use promo code SCOOP for $10 off your first purchase. So that's our promo code. Put it in, SCOOP, and they'll give you $10 off your first purchase. So thanks to SeatGeek also for being a great sponsor of the Unofficial 40. So, just to wrap it up, all this stuff comes out. I called Bob, or I just texted him the night before, and I did exactly what Josh explained. That's what I did. I called our Florida State guys, and I said, look, I don't think there's anything to this, but I want you to tell me if you think that there's anything real there. And they said, well, these people have told us some things. We do think that he's a candidate. But then he said, the administration's a mess up here, and, nobody really knows, everything. And I said, well, I'll tell you what. First off, do you think the Kendall Briles stuff is true? And he's like, yes, we're hearing that. I said, well, that's a red flag. I don't think Bob would ever hire or Kendall Briles to be his offensive coordinator. I said, the second thing is he values leadership and stability in the administration as much as anything. And I'm telling you right now, if it's a mess, I don't think this is a realistic thing. And so, but after talking to him, I thought, okay, I'll go ahead and text Bob. This was like 10:45. I'd already seen the tequila picture, so I figured he was hammered and would not get back to me. And then he did the next morning, and he just told me it wasn't legitimate, and that he'd been at a casino all day and was at a benefit for Dan Marino's charity that the night before, and that he hadn't been talking to Florida State. He wasn't interviewing he wasn't in Florida to interview for a job there. So he just said it's not accurate. It's not true. And you feel kind of bad, like quote tweeting that poor TV girl, but at the same time, you dug yourself that hole.
You shouldn't feel bad at all. It sucks for her, but that's if there's any type of I don't want to say like conclusion, because I guess it's not really concluded, but she deserves it. If you're gonna put it out there,
you would say that.
Like, she deserves it. I think she should be fired. I don't think she should have a job anymore, but that's just me.
And this is what else I did. I didn't,
because she kept doubling down. That's the thing that
it's just
people did give her chances to hedge, and she didn't take it.
Absolutely, Josh.
Until Feldman and Carey and Herb Street were involved, and then she's like, "Well, I'm hearing
deals
maybe.
can fall
things
through.
can change.
She hasn't
deals
erased.
can fall through.
Yeah, she hasn't erased anything either.
Credit to her. She knows that the internet doesn't forget.
Yeah, you head out there.
Note to everybody listening: don't delete crap. It's going to get saved. If you report anything of meaning, it's going to end up. Just own it. Live with it.
I can't delete anything because Josh will immediately screen capture it and send it to me. I saw that you deleted this.
That's a fact. That is a fact.
It's like, damn it, can't you just let me drink my whiskey and talk about music and just let me decide
I don't
when
think
I'm
anybody would
going
care if
too
you talk
far?
about that.
That's usually all I'm deleting. It's just my random musical, way too deep dive into philosophy.
I know the tweet you're talking about. That was weird. Okay, everybody was uncomfortable
I know.
with that.
What you and Ryan Adams, who's been accused of sexual assault, do
I am not
between yourselves.
I am out on Ryan Adams. Okay,
You canceled Ryan Adams.
Cancel culture.
You've canceled him in your personal world.
I haven't listened to one of his albums since the whole Me Too thing happened.
Wow, that's big.
He's sketch.
See,
maybe I'm a bad person.
I struggle with that. I can separate the artist from the person.
But here's the thing. Even his wife came out and said that he
it's crazy.
Screwed her around about her music career and stuff.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah,
Mandy
I remember
Moore.
that. Yeah, that's not probably.
I love Ryan Adams. I think he's he was at one point a musical genius. He's kind of putting out so much crap now. It's just like, what's the point even?
He sold out.
He didn't
You
sell
didn't like
out.
the Taylor Swift album, did you?
Oh my God, I did buy the Taylor Swift album, and it was pretty good. It was pretty good. He did. There were a couple songs on there he did a really good job with.
I can tell you that's the album Tiffany is most familiar with.
But I do have
Ryan
that
Adams collection.
Taylor Swift album on vinyl. I'm not lying.
Really?
Yeah.
I won't tell anybody that.
I just told everybody. Yeah. I don't care. You can judge me all you want.
The coaching circle is going to be.
Have they moved on yet, by
Crazy.
the way? Florida State, have they moved on to Mark Stoops officially?
I don't think yet. I think that, as a whole, the fan base still thinks the Bob Stoops thing is happening because the president or the athletic director, whoever came out yesterday, basically they're using that as it just can't be done this week because the boosters got involved and the administration doesn't want it to move too quickly, which is a strange take, but.
The booster, what he was saying is the boosters are moving this too far forward before we can even talk to people.
It's like they're hiring people and we haven't even done the interview process.
We haven't put the job out there.
We still
Which,
have
by
to.
the way, I know that Bob Stoops would never interview for that job. That was another thing that people were like, the Florida State fans, the Facebook, people were trying to come after me like Bob Stoops does it. Yeah, I know. I'm just saying you guys were saying he was in Tallahassee interviewing. He was in Florida, in Miami area, not interviewing for the job in Tallahassee.
And I love that everyone's defense is, well, Nick Saban said he wasn't going to Alabama.
Yeah, that was
Nick
all over
Saban
the
and
place.
Bob Stoops are not the same person. It's a very different animal we're talking about. But guys, somebody asked me last night, kind of look at the Power 5 openings. This could be a really quiet year in coaching changes. I don't see a lot of big jobs coming open. I think that's why Florida State may be in a good spot because I don't see a lot that's going to change. I think USC is the other one that you think, that probably comes open. But, you look around the Power 5, I didn't see hardly anything that I think's that enticing.
PJ Fleck just signed an extension.
Mm-hmm.
I think that it could be,
which that doesn't always mean a lot, but
it could be small. Like the amount of opening or the number of openings could be small, but the players in the schools that will have openings is going to be massive. Like USC is a massive job. Florida State's a massive
Urban
job.
can close that job with one answer.
And I probably think he will because he's a son of a bitch like that. But I think Notre Dame could open. I don't think
Brian
that people
Kelly's
are too happy with Brian Kelly. He's been up there forever.
I hate saying this, but I just don't know. I think the tenure of a coach is so much shorter than if you're a coach, I don't know why you'd want to be at a school for 10 years anymore.
I think Bob Stoops is the perfect example of somebody that can obviously still coach a little bit and just stayed at a place too long. I think that what has always been said, if there's anything I learned in the hindsight of looking back at the Bob Stoops era, he probably stayed on a couple years too many.
Yeah, I just think he was part of, Nick Saban miraculously has spanned generations, but Bob literally hit a generational wall.
Sure.
In terms of
I think
recruiting.
that's fair.
But he
kind
was,
of for the exact reasons that we started on. Saban is willing to shift his morality wherever he needs to.
Or hire as many people as he needs to.
Exactly. Where Bob is going to do things the only way he can live with.
Josie is never going to allow a Nick Saban type faculty. He's just not. They just have way too many. Georgia has even more.
It's wild.
It's crazy.
It's a different.
It just means more.
It does. In a way, it's just a different ball game, the way that they operate in the SEC.
All right,
And
so
who's to say they're doing it wrong?
let's shift something here. There's some pretty big basketball stuff going on in the recruiting world right now. Next Thursday, Bryce Thompson Tuesday. I keep thinking Thursday. Next Tuesday, Bryce Thompson's going to announce at Booker T his college decision. He came out in the Tulsa World with the Final Four of the teams he's going to choose from, and then yesterday, OSU's kind of trying to play a little bit of I don't know what you would call it, not a shell game, but they're trying to to kind of build this momentum.
Entice, yeah.
Cade Cunningham commits to them, one of the top rivals, number 2 overall player. And then, I mean, Bob, you can take it from there, but I mean, just trying to set it up. But this is a huge deal getting ready to come down.
It really is. You know, for probably the last 2-3 months, it felt like OU was in the driver's seat a little bit, and then Kansas kind of surged ahead. And then after the official visit for Thompson to Norman a few weeks ago, it seemed like OU's brass had just a sense of resignation, that there was nothing more they could do to get Bryce to Norman. He was going to go to Lawrence. He was going to be with Bill Self. That relationship between Rod Thompson, his father, and Self, obviously. I mean, there's just nothing they could do to overcome that. But Sooners are still swinging. You know, I think OSU is in it, but I think they're a healthy number 3, because I do believe in the end that Rod would love if Bryce stayed closer to home, and all 3 of those schools definitely fit that mold. But when you look at this, it seems like whatever goodwill that Lon Kruger has earned throughout the years, which is plenty, he's just cashing in all his chips. He's got Rayford Young talking to Rod Thompson about why OU is the spot, because you go to Kansas, you go to Kentucky, you're just another guy. You're a good guy, but you're just another guy, where if you come to Norman, you are the guy. You use the Trey Young blueprint to a T, the marketing that can go with it, that you can do a one and done in Norman and make it to the next level. I think Trey Young opened a lot of doors in that regard.
Yeah.
So you don't have to be a one and done at Duke or Kentucky or Kansas. You can do it anywhere as long as you're good enough, and you're going to be found. You got guys like Alonzo Trier, who of course was here in his 7th, 8th grade before he left. He's talking to Bryce Thompson saying, hey, go to OU. I mean, Trier went to Arizona, was a guy, wasn't a superstar by any means. And I think he said, hey, learn from my mistake. You could go to this place and become the big man on campus. And you talk about Cade Cunningham, trying to mesh him with Thompson. I think Sooners doing the same thing. Davion Harmon, because I think we all agree now he won't be a one and done. He stays that second year, and then OU just throwing it all in for next year, because I think Harmon would be 2 and done, Thompson would be 1 and done, and they would just go all out to make next year as great as it possibly could be.
You'd have Reeves coming back for his senior year as well, which would look promising last night. How much do you think how much of a player do you think Davion Harmon was during the official visit, as far as basically tying himself to Bryce Thompson?
Absolutely. There's no doubt. I mean, that were the 2 biggest marketing points for them, was the one and done with Trey Young, and you could play with Harmon, and the relationship that those guys have from playing ball in the past. You'd be the perfect 1-2 punch. You guys could do special things, and not only individually, but team-wise. You could make a run to the Final Four. You could be a lottery pick. Everything that you want to do because you think you should go to Lawrence, you could do it just as well if you stayed in Norman.
If you had to guess right now, if we fired you along with the ABC news girl in Tallahassee and made you pick, where would you pick?
It's still Kansas. On Wednesday morning, it is still Kansas. But I love that OU keeps firing its shots, because I really thought they were just going to say, you know what? We gave it our best shot. We'll see if Bryce changes his mind.
Now,
They're still attempting to change his mind.
They can't take a current player on a visit, can they?
Like an
in-home visit?
Like a Hamptons parting shot for the Thunder?
Yeah. Could they just park like Davion Harmon, like at the downtown loft or whatever?
No.
Over by the BOK?
Bryce would have to come to campus again.
Oh, they should just,
And you got Trey Phipps. You've got Trey Phipps, which is his teammate, Booker T, committed OU. He's been working. You got the relationship with Pooh. There's so much stuff that the Sooners have used to their advantage and done everything they possibly can. Just don't know if it's going to be enough.
Well, we're not beyond, other, trying to get other people that cover, high school and stuff to kind of give us their opinions. But, talk to Bill Haston. He's known Rod Thompson forever. I think at one point before he decided he was going to have this big commitment ceremony, like they were just going to announce it through Bill Haston and the Tulsa World, and like he's been all over. Like I asked him this morning, like he doesn't know. Like he thought it was OU at one point.
It felt like OU until after the OU visit, because that was the moment OU locks him down, and instead it's when the door opened more.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying the Sooners did it wrong, but whatever it didn't resonate or connect with Bryce at that moment. I feel since the visit, OU's gained more ground as maybe they figured out what they needed to stress more, and they've done it. And again, maybe sometimes it's not the message, but the messenger. When Alonzo Trier, Rayford Young, they're not Lon Kruger, they're not Carlin Hartman, they're not those guys. When it's not guys associated with the program telling you this, maybe it resonates just a little bit more.
What's the Trier connection there? Just a Tulsa kid?
I think it's just, when he was here, because he was a class of 2015 guy.
I mean, he went to
way back
Arizona.
Yeah, and, he was only here. It was the OKC Storm for 2 years.
Which is a homeschool team here in Oklahoma.
Homeschool team. And it just he got around all those guys just playing with them. He was always the oldest of them among Trey and Bryce, but that basketball community gets so tight-knit when you're on the road all through the spring and summer. And it did feel weird that because, Trier was always never going to be a Sooner. And I think it's because he believed he could never be a one-and-done at a place like OU. And then 2 years later, he saw Trey Young do just that, and it made him realize, what? Maybe I could have been that guy that did it first. Let me at least let Bryce know I think he should be OU because the opportunity is there for him for everything that he wants to do.
I'm just trying to think of what, other things they could do to make an impression. They have like the whole team show up like outside his house, like with the candlelight vigil or something.
Well, you think about what the football coaches did for Marvin Wilson. You remember they had 5 coaches. They're all wearing like jerseys. Sometimes it doesn't matter.
Marvin Wilson.
You got to look at the family members. Are they smiling, Bob? Are they not? Do they have an arm around each other?
What's crazy? Marvin Wilson, very good player. Like
he's having a great.
He might be like he's inching towards a possible first pick in the draft, kind of.
Seriously?
Like
number 1 overall?
Well, okay, I went too far. First
round
rounder,
for sure.
Yeah.
First round, yeah.
Is he a guy that leaves after this year because of what's going on?
I would think so.
You'd have to think.
Yeah.
I mean, he's eligible. What's he going to come back to? I mean, you just don't know what the marriage of Bob and Kendall Briles is going to look like on that side of the ball. And there's a lot to think about.
Will he want to be coached by Mike Stoops?
After
turned
all
that
this
down
time,
before.
Turned it down once.
Florida State seems like the type of don't give a program. They should just go ahead and hire Art Briles.
I think they need to hire Mike Norvell. But he's getting a lot of money from Memphis.
Yeah. Mike Norvell might be one of those guys that's next in line, maybe out of Notre Dame, or maybe his next big job. His next job is going to be a major job.
He'll be one of those
football.
guys where you just like, why didn't other major programs go after this?
The most
guy?
impressive thing about what Mike Norvell's done in Memphis is they lose assistant coaches every year. It seems like, and he's just reloaded.
Where does he want to go? I don't know his background.
I don't know.
Like what is the job he wants to get to?
I don't know where his allegiances lie.
Real quick, Bob, back to...
He's from Dallas.
Is he?
He was born in Dallas.
Oh, he'll be the next head coach of Texas then.
He played at Central Arkansas, so I mean he's kind of.
Oh, Arkansas should hire him.
Yeah,
better than the guy that they have now. That's for sure.
They'll move on to Bob Stoops next.
Hog lock.
Oh, I need that. I need that in my life. I need 1 week of that. Maybe they could plan around the bowl trip. The bowl game. I need that though.
Is that going to be my new reputation? Is just slamming the door on all Bob Stoops rumors for the rest of my career?
You should start an entire Twitter account just for that.
Stoopscoop.com.
You just tweet yes or no when a school comes up. I think that'd be funny.
Guys, I mean, he was born the day after a 34-14 Texas win in the Cotton Bowl. So, I mean, that story writes itself.
They would love to write that down in all.
Mike Norvell was?
October 11th, 81.
Did you
So
know the
he's
score
ready.
just off the top of your
Oh,
head?
you
or-
meant the Red River Cotton Bowl, not like the Red River, or not like
Yeah.
the Cotton Bowl.
Yeah, no, I'm sorry, not in the Cotton Bowl, not the Cotton Bowl. You're right. Presented that wrong. Yeah, Eddie, I've got all the way back to 1957. Just memorized.
Just
buddy.
memorize.
You've got your coaches. I
You got the
Texas
coaches.
scores.
You got OU Texas scores. That's really actually impressive.
You know what I've decided that I really, really want? It's a very football writer thing to do. They used to give away Rolex watches. They're actually Tudors made by Rolex for people that played in the Cotton Bowl. Mm-hmm. So there are all these watches floating around that say like Cotton Bowl Classic 1967.
Yeah.
And they're like Tudors. Like they cost about $3,000, but
My uncle has a Sugar Bowl one.
does he really?
Yeah.
It's a Rolex.
From the 60. What year did they play in the Sugar Bowl? 70, 71?
Josh doesn't know Sugar Bowls.
That was score. That was 17-14.
I think he has a.
That is amazing, though.
might have a Cotton Bowl one,
I
too.
mean, that I struggle to kind of like, because I know what watch values are now, but like to think that they gave Rolexes to football players for playing in a bowl. I mean, like now that'd be like at minimum like a $6,000 gift to somebody.
72. They played in 72, and they actually, OU has the unique distinction, and I didn't remember this until I looked at this again. They played in the Sugar Bowl twice in 72, because one was on January 1st, 1972, and the other was December 31st, 1972.
And
Fun
he
fact.
still has the watch.
Yeah,
So you want to sell it?
at his house. No, probably not. Maybe. Probably not. I'd say probably
Name
not.
your price.
Yeah, name your price. I mean, you're going to have to...
Yeah, I
work
might as
with
well just make this podcast my own watch collection auction house.
You're going to have to be...
If you have a Cotton
gonna
Bowl
be-
Tudor watch,
You're going to be
let me
purchasing
know.
through a third party, though, which would be me. So you'd have to pay the
There's a fee.
65% finder's
It's all right,
fee.
we can hold off on that raise that we were wanting to give you for a while.
If you're going to say that, we might be able to do a little armed robbery.
If you're on.
Well, is it really armed robbery when you know where the extra key is located?
Well, I'd have to mask up.
Yeah, okay. Oh, ring. Too many rings.
Carrie's currently marking this part of the podcast, cutting it all out so his uncle doesn't know.
Hey,
Don't want to tip him off.
Okay, so let's get to this real quick before we got to get out of here. OU night game. It kind of puts some pressure on Lincoln Riley because, hey, I've been belly aching a lot about 11 a.m. games and how much it hurts recruiting. So now you got a 7 p.m. game. So are you going to be like Alabama and have 30 Rivals 100 recruits at your recruiting weekend?
No.
Josh?
No, there are not going to be 30 Rivals 100 guys in this weekend.
By the way,
that is not gonna happen.
you texted that, you DM'd us that during the 30 mother freaking Rivals 100 recruits at LSU, Alabama this weekend.
I mean, you kind of feel
30.
shitty if you're the other 70 that aren't there, don't you?
Yeah.
Or if you're not,
Might just be committed.
if you're a 3-star going to this game,
You should just go home.
you're seriously just going to see the game.
Yeah, like how many recruits are going to be there not even knowing if they're going to get an offer or not because of this dickhead that's standing in front of me.
That's just using Alabama to get a ticket to the game or whatever.
Yep. Oh, Andrew Bone has 80 confirmed visitors right now for the
That's
Alabama.
insane.
I think the biggest I can remember, it was like 40-ish. I think it might have been that Florida State home game.
That was
the Christian
big.
Ponder year. That was a big one.
Buckeyes 2016 was big.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
they literally would have to hire another Annie Hansen to be able to handle that weekend.
Because I almost felt that was the weekend why they stopped letting us go down on the field for a pregame.
I think Saban's going to go into the coach's office today. Mike, we need you to be a host for 15 3-stars this weekend. I know you want to help game plan for the defense, but we really need you to take a couple 2-stars out to lunch on Saturday.
Yeah, you're going to be shuttling the players back and forth this week because we need extra drivers.
Not
Yeah.
even the big ones.
Yeah,
just the.
Don't talk to him. Just shuttle him, please.
Well, that is a big part because people don't realize this. Like most recruits at night games, they don't want to stay for the whole game. They want to go back at halftime.
They
They want to go back at halftime, watch the rest of the game, get a nap, and then get ready to party. That's what they do.
Eddie, would you have even made it through the first quarter? Like, I think you'd have been pre-gaming while taking the nap. Like,
I've been
while
on a recruiting
resting.
trip. No, probably not.
Oh.
I wouldn't have made it.
Yeah. Okay. I was like, that surprises me, but now we're on the same page.
Weren't you involved in the nightlife portion of when Jermaine Gresham came on his official visit?
No, I don't think
here?
so.
What was
I would
that,
have been a
Josh?
freshman.
I was wondering if Eddie was going to take the fifth.
No, I don't remember Gresh coming through. Keith Nickel came through. He's wearing Timberlands and a Bluetooth. We kicked him out of the house.
I think you told that story before.
I can still envision it too. It's like one of those things that happened yesterday. What a loser.
Now, I did want to say, as far as what is coming in, it's so far it's some commitments. Cody Jackson is expected to come up. Obviously, Ethan Downs, Brendan Walker, some of the local guys. A couple of the bigger ones that I think are notable. Luther Burden, the wide receiver from St. Louis. He's a 2022 guy. He's coming down. It should be his first trip. That's a good start for Oklahoma as they just kind of continue to build that relationship. The one that OU fans are going to be more familiar with, though, is Gentry Williams from Booker T is expected to come down. That's a guy, like I've said before, that's a probable Rivals 100 guy in his class in your state. Oklahoma, he loves Oklahoma. I think OU's in a great spot there, but you just want to keep that relationship going. He could be that elite corner for Roy Manning or Alex Grinch or whatever the coaching staff looks like in 3 years. I mean, that could be the guy that really could maybe send them into a different stratosphere as far as recruiting goes. The other thing I want to mention, I literally was posting this. The guys had to wait on me because I was finishing Oklahoma as we were kind of getting geared up to start the pod. Dominic Hill, a South Carolina commitment from Orlando, Florida, Jones High School. He will be an official visitor this weekend. I've texted with him a little bit. He confirmed he'll be in. Big, long guy. I mean, it's very much in the vein of, what we've heard they're looking for on defense. So he's kind of an interesting guy. And I mean, like we've talked with, Oklahoma is going against South Carolina in a couple situations here. It's kind of been a weird kind of anomaly. But, there is reason to think Oklahoma could make this work if they can push for him. I wonder where he fits into the numbers with Dante Manning and Josh Eaton, if they would take another guy that's a probable corner or if they think they can make him work at safety. I don't know the answers to all that. This is all kind of new. But what I also say is that I don't know that this will be the only official visitor this weekend. I've heard some rumblings, some things. I'm going to keep checking around, but I think it could be maybe a more interesting weekend than everybody's expecting. Yeah, just chew on that a little bit.
Thanks for tipping off all the other websites.
Yeah, that's you got to walk that fine line. So
Thank you for listening.
Absolutely.
How about that?
Which we know you all are.
Going back to Gentry, though, 7 p.m. kick actually does help with a kid like that. When you're in Tulsa and now he doesn't have to leave like at 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday. Now he can stay for any high school football related meetings Saturday and still make it plenty of time for 7 o'clock kick. So even if it isn't a big 2020, moving it to 7 does help get kids like that for unofficials where it's not rushed and it's not stressed and no one's panicking. Plenty of time to get there and try to make the impression that OU wants to make.
Yeah, well, and, I know, again, people are like, it's 2022. Guys, I mean, the biggest chip Oklahoma has in recruiting right now is Brock Vandegrift, a junior. A year from now, that's where Gentry Williams is, and I'm not saying he's a quarterback, so it's not going to be the same level of recognition, but if Gentry Williams ends up ranked where I think he could be ranked, if Oklahoma can get him on board early, that gives them a lot of, defensive linemen. We're going to have this guy at corner that everybody in the country wants. You can come play. He's going to give you a chance to get to the quarterback. Or, you work with those things and you can sell that, and it gives you an elite guy that, like I said, that I think by the time we're all said and done, I mean, he'll have an offer to go just about anywhere he wants to go.
All right. I appreciate it as always, Josh. Thanks to I'm sorry, Bob's got one more thing he wants to get in.
No, I just want to make sure I'm mentioned.
Okay. I was gonna mention you, damn it.
It's kind of funny. We didn't really have a whole lot of OU football, actual football to talk about, obviously coming off of a bye week.
Yeah.
But I would say I'm intrigued to see how this team responds in a way. I'm pretty sure I'm going to predict something like 60-10 because I think Iowa State's a bad football team. But we shall see. Let's see what this team is all about. I think this is going to be a big statement as far as what's to come over the next month.
The thing I'll say is
that
I
fair?
think they'll hit their I think they'll hit their turnover quotient. Brock Purdy is a talented guy, but boy, he makes some questionable decisions.
Who's going to catch him?
Bob, that's not for me to decide.
For
Bob.
the sake of
Neville
Alex Grinch's health and well-being, they better force a couple turnovers because I think he is physically and mentally losing sleep and possibly bordering on unhealthy tendencies. If
Waking him up middle of the night.
If they don't force a couple turnovers this week, it's almost kind of depressing talking to Grinch when he starts talking about turnovers because it's and the conversation as far as they don't need to force turnovers, just get off the field. I kind of go against that just for the fact that you force a couple turnovers in Manhattan, probably don't get beat. So we'll see. It's going to be. It's not just a look over OU type game this weekend, if that makes sense in a way. Both teams coming off of a bye. It's kind of a big week.
Both teams coming off a loss.
I think I saw Mark Rogers throw it out there this week that this is only the second time OU isn't a 3+ touchdown favorite at home under Lincoln Riley.
Yes,
the only other time was
under 20 is a favorite.
The only other time was TCU. They were only a touchdown favorite 2017.
I think it was 6 or something or 8 maybe.
It was 17. It was the game that
Rodney
maybe
went
one
off.
of the best performances I've ever seen out of one player and a half out of Rodney Anderson. So, all right, I think I'm done now.
Okay, thank you, Eddie Radosevich. Thank you, Bob Prisbillo. Thank you to Josh McCuistion. And remember, midfirst.com/U40. Go sign up for that OU rewards card. And we'll see you next time right back here on the unofficial 40 podcast from Soonerscoop.com.